It's August 22nd, 6 a.m. We're going to start the regular board meeting for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors Thursday, August meeting. And if you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. And Ms. Bethany, would you like us to continue standing as we go into this next piece, or would you want to set up something first?
Nope, we're good. We're just gonna, I'm just gonna have to be lost.
And again, please stand to remove your cap as we recognize our fallen.
President Bixby, apologies, give me 1 second. I want to get sure our Zoom's still on. Yep, I think so. Nope. Thanks. Okay, thanks for your patience with technical difficulties, everyone. Since our last board meeting, we have lost 12 of our brothers and sisters. James Brian Burns, 51 years old, from Marin, California, of occupational cancer. Dean Warren from South County, Washington, 60 years old, occupational cancer. Sean P. Calvi from Cleveland, Ohio, 37 years old, occupational cancer. Ty Voth from Wichita, Kansas, 27 years old, lost during a structural fire. Walter Sickler, Fresno City, California, 55 years old, occupational cancer. Roderick Shane Lambert from Indianapolis, Indiana, 52 years old, from medical complications from a previous rollover in a fire engine. Robert J. Conklin from Fort Dees, New Jersey, 38 years old, occupational cancer. Matthew Forand, New Bedford, Massachusetts, 45 years old, of a medical emergency. Matthew Edward Forand, New Bedford, Massachusetts, unknown, found dead at the firehouse in the middle of the night. Amanda Adams, 47 years old, Orlando, Florida, occupational cancer. Ronald Hegedus from Vancouver, British Columbia, 59 years old, occupational cancer. And Brian Peak from Edders, Pennsylvania, 67 years old, struck by a vehicle while directing traffic on the scene of an MVA.
Please join me in just a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Ms. Irvin. I'm looking, I see all of our board members, so there's no reason for a roll call. Please, Ms. Baker, show them all present, and then I would ask our board members to look at the agenda, see if there's any additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made to tonight's agenda. Looks nice, short and sweet. Chuck, you good too? Perfect. Then we'll move forward, and that'll take us directly into public comment. Thank you, Ms. Barb. Mr. Leo, I saw you were first on the list. If you wanted to step up.
Sure. Good evening, my name's Al Leo, live at 9293 Silver Ranch Road in Conifer. Just want to do a couple things. One was to show off this banner that one of the neighbors in my planning unit or my neighborhood made, thanking firefighters. So I don't see a lot of firefighters here today, but also as the Jeffco sheriffs as well for everything that was done for the Port of Fire. I mean, thank y'all. This one's been flying, hanging in front of Inner Canyon Station 1, but I wanted to bring it here and show just what one of the neighbors decided to do. So thank you all for what you're doing. Then just another couple quick things, is, I had a chance to look through the strategic plan. I guess, we're going to hear more about that. I really applaud the district undertaking that, and I look forward to hearing the updates as y'all are working through the goals and strategies and the outcomes that are outlined in that plan. Particularly like part of the vision statement, it says our vision is to provide the most effective services to our evolving community. And I think that's a critical element of this. Is Conifer's changing? It's not the same place it was. I had a conversation with Chief Ware one time, a few months ago. He said we're at suburb of Denver. And I think we've got to take that into account. I think the SWOT analysis in there was great and was right on the money. Workforce, infrastructure, community risk, and communication really are the things that the district needs to be working for. So look forward to hearing those updates. And I think the last plug I'll put in for the Conifer Wildland Division is, just reminding everybody that in 2023 they were certified as a Type 2 wildland fire management. And I think what happened a few weeks ago shows that was a worthwhile investment in our community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Next up is Smith Rothman.
Hi, I'm Katie Rothman. I live on Firefighters Mountain. I want to thank everyone in this room, everybody not in this room who contributed in some way to the positive outcome for the quarry fire. But I really want to touch on the communications. I know that was brought up a lot during the strategic plan, and I want to say that Elk Creek's communication was absolutely fantastic. And my neighbors really wanted to make sure that was clear. For Jefferson County, it was pretty good, but there were some issues, and I'm not really sure how we approached that. There was at least one or two major miscommunications that I had to get on the phone and call Bethany, who then had to call Jefferson County because I couldn't do it, and then they apologized the next day, and that was concerning when things were on that level of miscommunication. So I'm not really sure how we move forward with that, but I wanted to make sure that was voiced. After the quarry fire, my neighbors on Conifer Mountain also wanted to say that they are more than ever wanting to have a conversation about what unification would look like, what consolidation, the C word, would look like, and how soon we can start those conversations. They see that our districts really do work together and that we would be stronger together because a fire does not happen in a bubble. So again, I would like to just voice that. My neighborhood, Conifer Mountain, is ready to have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rothman. All right, that concludes public comment, and there is, I think that's got it. Ms. Ward had nothing this month. Thank you. All right, we'll go right into our the regular meeting minutes from July. If my fellow board members would be so kind as just to, again, just take a cursory glance to see if there's any updates, corrections, deletions that are needed. I've had a pretty good chance to look at them. I don't need anything.
And motion that we accept the
I've
meeting.
got a couple.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Melissa, I'm still trying to figure out your numbering system.
Yeah, I don't understand.
But at the,
Yeah, I'll read those.
just the paragraph, the sentence actually above number 11 in the last page, you're missing the yay count there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing I saw other than the numbering.
I don't know why it's adjusting. You can
So check real quick.
leave
Where
those
is that
on.
that you signed?
I think I'm done because it just
Yeah.
keeps,
The
it's
last,
like I adjust them and
last
they go.
page,
Right?
right above,
Yeah,
the sentence right above the numeral 11 paragraph.
there were 4 yays and 1 nay. The one motion passes. I personally, for me, I think you could leave those off. They're not, the numbers,
Makes it easier for me.
they're not consequential to the actual minutes.
Are you talking about the numeric representation
Yeah.
of each topic?
I mean, other than having people zero in on a paragraph, but it's not like we have 10-page minutes.
All right,
Double
so,
space, that could be 10-page. I'm kidding.
12 fonts.
I'm not really a Microsoft Word kind of gal, so I draw pictures.
all right,
It's a very mysterious thing,
I don't get it.
so you were making a motions with the two,
Yeah, with the
Correction.
two minor with the one minor correction and the removal of the numeric identifiers, which just seem to cause confusion.
is there a second?
Second
By
motion.
Ms. Woods. All in favor?
I-
All right, the motion carries. Then we'll go to our financial matters, brings us up to our treasurer, Ms. Woods.
Okay. Well, for some reason my notes have disappeared off of my laptop. So we'll just wing it. Next slide. Total revenue budget for 2024 is $7,001,515. Actuals this month year to date, $5,868,000. Budget of $5,161,000. The biggest contributor to the fact that we're over budget in the month of, July, is because we got an extra little bump in property taxes. We don't know why, but unless they ask for it back, we're gonna keep it. What can I say? So that's the biggest contribution to revenue is property taxes, and that was like 4.8 million of the 5.86 million. So, next slide. Expense budget year to date for the whole year is $6,370,604. Expense actuals for July, $3,480,238 against a budget of $2.8 million. The biggest contribution to the overage is labor. Just is. We'll have a slide on labor a little bit later. The other expenses were pretty much in line with what you would expect, being 58% of the year. Most of the departments were within a good range. SURF expenses, which we'll look at later, were a little bit higher than year-to-date budget, but that's understandable, and we'll get to that later. Next slide. So net income, this is kind of a weird slide, and I might try to do something with it differently next year. Our budget for net income for 2024 is $630,911. Pretty much flat to what actuals came in for 2023. In terms of looking at net income, for last year, 2023, we were at $1,598,000. This year, revenue is at $2,387,000 against a budget of $2,333,000. Again, property taxes are the most contributor to the fact that we are running a little bit over. We'll see how that works out for the rest of the year. Don't know. Next slide. Property tax revenue, budget for the year, $4,535,365. Again, you can see year-to-date property tax revenue is at $4,008,000, and budget is $4,004,000. So again, we got a little bump in property taxes in the month of July, so that sort of raised the differential. Next slide. This is just what it looks like on a monthly basis. You can see the spike in July, which was not as big as the spike in March. That's because property taxes are generally due in March, and July picks up the remainder of people that are splitting their property tax numbers. So again, it shows that the extra amount of property taxes that came in for the month of July. I keep wanting to say August, people, sorry. Next slide. This is where we're looking at labor. Budget for labor this year is $2,961,946. We're about $2,000,002 versus a budget of about $1,006,000. So part of the difference has to do with the way the budget was calculated. And what we usually call it is apples and oranges, because the budget number does not include some of the things that are in the actuals. In the actuals, there's everything. But the budget was based on 2023 numbers, where the expenses for labor excluded income that came to us from Inter Canyon for the departments that they subsidized. That, and that's most of the difference. I've asked the administrative people at Elk Creek to take a look at reforecasting the labor amount for the remainder of the year, just because I would rather see us look at two numbers that are equivalent in terms of content than they are right now. Next slide. This is surf labor. It's a bit over, but we'll talk about the fact that we've had a lot more fires in 2024 at this point than we had in 2023. So that will explain part of the fact that the year-to-date actuals for surf is higher than the year-to-date budget. We'll see if it smooths out for the rest of the year, but again, as we're looking at labor, I've asked administration to look at labor and make sure that we're in sync with what we budgeted. Next slide. So this is surf as of the end of July, because I've got another slide that shows as of the middle of August. So we have submitted, as of the end of July, we've submitted $538,662,000 out of district expenses to the state. We have been reimbursed for $188,509. So they're a little behind in terms of our reimbursement. So as of the end of July, we are still missing $350,000 and some change. Surf expenses, as you saw on the last slide, labor expenses, but this is total surf expenses, for $547,085. Next slide. So I broke this out separately. This is as of about August 12th. And I'll talk a little bit about where we are as of August 25th. We submitted year-to-date. You can see that it increased by about 300-some thousand by the middle of August. Again, more fires. Reimbursement, again, the same, not paid, the same. So as of the end of August, close to the end of August, we are at $1,269,000 in terms of what we have submitted to the state. We were at the end of July at 27 fires. By the end of August, we were at 37 fires. So a considerable number of fires peaked in August. I haven't seen end of August yet, so I expect to see a little bit more of that. A lot of the numbers of the $1,269,000, some of it came from the quarry fire, because that didn't happen until basically July, August, so we didn't submit expenses until the end of August, because we have to run payroll, overtime, and all of that in order to submit the expenses. So there will probably still be more coming from the quarry fire, but $1,269,000 is more than we submitted in 2023 at the end of the year. So we're looking at the end of August for the $1,269,000, and at 12 months in 2023, we're at $1,271,000. So we're a lot further along. We've submitted a lot more expenses. There have been a lot more fires in 2024, and Chief can maybe talk a little bit about that. But what I'm seeing in the numbers is considerably more fires and more expenses submitted for the out-of-district fires. And they're all over the country. Arizona, California, Colorado. Colorado went from 7 at the end of July to 11 at the end of August. So that's 4 more. Idaho went from, I think, 3 to 5. So again, it's just, they're all over the country. It's not just Colorado. We had one in Texas that we went to, Louisiana, Georgia. So again, all over the country. And it's good, this is my opinion, it's good that we can help with these fires because when we had the quarry fire here, it wasn't just the people here in this district and the surrounding districts. It was people coming from all over the country to help us fight that fire. And part of the reason we get that kind of help is because we provide that kind of help. In addition, the help that we provide is good training for the people that fight the fires here. And there will be more fires here. I have no doubt that there will be more fires here. Next slide. Expenses for the month of July in the stage were $658,726. So I will make a motion to approve the stage ledger expenses of $658,726.
Is there a second on Director Wood's motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries.
I didn't give a lecture, I apologize.
Thank you.
I feel very strongly about it. Conservative.
It's important. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to item number 9.
Wait, I think actually Chief has something
I
to
was going
say.
to talk about the ACH.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
It was, the check statement. I think all of you have. we didn't have time to include it in the packet purely because we wanted to make sure it's what you guys need and what you want. And a lot of talk about transparency and putting more information, more financial information. And I think, every month when you guys are asked to approve the expenditures, people that actually come in and sign checks, actually see the way we do business, have a good understanding. But if not, it's kind of a number, and you can sift it out. It is obviously in the financials here, but so we talked about it, and a couple months ago we tried a beta version, and we included some things in there, but it had people's names on it, and some people use that to start attacking individuals, so we have to kind of redact it. Because there is actually, and in looking at it, there's a lot more private information in there as well. So the 2 sheets you're going to have is ACH, automatic clearinghouse. Does everybody understand what that is? Obviously, they'll set up, they just come straight out of our account. So we do payroll, et cetera, et cetera. And on that, a couple things, you'll see a bunch of different transactions for our payroll. Every time we do, so FICA benefits, et cetera, that comes up as a separate transaction through our payroll software. That's why there's multiple, July payroll. The other one you'll see is our credit card statement. That's the one at the bottom. And we actually can include our credit card statement if that's what you guys would like. We have to redact a lot of things on it because, again, people's names shouldn't be on there. That's not what this is about. If we want to get as granular as each credit card statement, like each credit card transaction. The only hiccups in that are sometimes without a narrative, sometimes, as somebody said, it looks like gobbledygook. But we can see it. We will have those out. When people come in and sign checks, we'll have those sitting out so you can see it. We have a process where it's reviewed and approved with a signature just like all the checks. And we can either do that or we can include that. That's kind of you guys. The other part is the transactions, all the checks in there. It's all pretty much straightforward. The only line item that we have kind of changed in there is anything involving personnel. So some of the checks that we write are refunds for ambulance billing. So for instance, if, whatever, Joe Schmo gets an ambulance ride because if any reason, he rides down to the hospital with us, our billing company bills him, he pays the bill, the insurance company actually ends up paying the bill after 4 months, then we refund that money. I don't think it's anybody's business that Joe Schmo rode the ambulance. And so I kind of like to redact all of those identifiers out of that. I don't think any personnel, any transaction tied to a name should be on that. That shouldn't be out in the public sphere. Just because. But other than that, That's the straight data out of our accounts. And if that's what you guys want, I know Director Devaney had a few ideas to streamline it a little bit. We basically pulled that out of, we exported CSV, made a spreadsheet, trying not to manipulate the data too much, because then it adds human error and I don't want that. So we're just trying to basically export it straight out of the accounts. So I guess as it goes, there's no board action needed with this, it's more just input. So as you guys look at it and you have any input, let me know, and next month we'll streamline it a little bit more.
Thank you, Jake. This was exactly what I was looking for. And we've kind of discussed the credit card stuff. There's so much detail that goes onto a credit card statement.
There's a lot of black squares.
Yeah, and X's and numbers that are really irrelevant to us. So however you can, whether it's a CSV export or a download with some redaction, however you can structure that in a way that conveys information similar to this without being,
We'll see if the redaction is too clunky.
you know,
If it's
maybe talk to the bank and see if they can give a CSV download.
Yeah.
So, something that makes it easier for you guys to,
Yeah, again, it's, I think our statement this month was 16 pages, so it's
yeah, exactly, like
it's
this.
a little light reading with a lot of numbers. Yeah, but, so we can work through that. I'll probably tinker with the version. I'll send it out to Director Pixley, he can send it out to you guys over, the next month, come up with ideas, and if we can refine it next month, we'll throw it in the packet so everybody can kind of see the way we do business. All the way down to transactional level.
I know we've been talking about this for a great while. This is a fabulous start to get us to where we want.
Well, and thanks to Barb and Corey for helping
Thank you.
extract the data.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Barber.
And I want to make a correction to what I said. Just, it was different numbers, different numbers. Last year's SURF reimbursement was $1,183,000, not $1,271,000. That was 2023. So, I'm sorry, 2022. 2023, we were reimbursed for $1,183,000, and we are already at $1,269,000. So, we're always
I think we can keep that in your head as amazing.
numbers. I'm an accountant. I have to admit, I'm an accountant.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Any questions on the check register that the chief presented? All right, well, that leads us directly into the chief's report.
All right. All right, so July was a challenging month. We spent most of the summer in very moderate fuel conditions. In July, we started drying out. Our call volume was normal. The call acuity was up significantly. And I mean, I've been saying that month after month, but fuel conditions in the district started to dry out over the month of July, but luckily we were not abnormally dry. So it wasn't extreme, but it was in high. So we had a number of high acuity events, and these were a problem. The structure fire at the base of Conifer Mountain, multiple patients, and it extended into a wildland incident. And we also had two other wildland fires that had the potential to impact the Oak Creek Fire Protection District with catastrophic consequences. Firefighters were very busy. First off, we'll touch on the structure fire at the base of Conifer Mountain. Like, we talk about that in our sand tables, what that's going to be like. Conifer Mountain is one of our problem areas. It's not a lot of egress, not a lot of mitigation, a lot of houses, a lot of curvy roads. Luckily, the winds lined up as well as the fuel conditions, and it really didn't extend more than, I think it was like 3/4 of an acre. I didn't have time to get out of the toe of the slope and actually hit the steeper parts of the slope and get into the crowns, because it would have been a problem at best. That was, again, we taxed all of our resources. We had Intercanyon, North Fork, Platte Canyon. I think that was it, but everybody from all of those there for this. I think there were 3 patients transported, as well as the structural fire component. Then, the next week, I think it was a week and a half after that, the Twin Forks fire was reported at 12:56. With a lot of the aids we have set up, we kind of lean forward when those were reported during high fire danger days. That fire, I think everybody sees it up driving up down 285. That fire was another problem. It did spot across the highway. We actually did some modeling, and if it got seeded in Turkey Creek Canyon, North Turkey Creek Canyon, it probably would have impacted, in a little over a day, it would have impacted Evergreen Meadows and the Marshdale area. which again, not great. We had everybody working. I was down there, and we ended up authorizing overtime, running some recall for everybody, and it ended up, we were able to hang it up on the highway, which that one worked out really well. Then after that, and then that was also human caused. And to that point, we, you can say what it's not. You can check lightning maps. It's definitely not lightning. You know, there's lots of things that are out there that people are speculating what it could be. Ultimately, it was a human start. It's about 50 feet away from the parking lot. Arson investigators were out there, and it's just going to be a human start. Then, on July 30th, which was a couple days later, we were actually out on smoke check up on Shadow Mountain, and I was with one of the sheriff's deputies, and he was on his CAD, and he commented that, oh, there's Inner Canyon's getting toned out for a fire. And I was like, oh, whatever, it's probably going to be like ours. And the deputy that was on it, I've known since he's been a deputy, and he said it was 10 by 10 and rapidly spreading, which is not great, especially in that area. The story is, and the deputy was on patrol going up Deer Creek Canyon and found it right off the road. Same start as the other one. And it basically exploded that night. I don't know, it probably went 100 acres that night. It was pretty windy that night. We had everybody from Mill Creek, Inner Canyon, West Metro, a number of agencies that night. I basically just walked away from us that night. We disengaged, and then the next day we were up and at it again. We were doing some modeling. We're trying to figure out how to animate that, which Captain Yellen's going to figure out. With our modeling, it's fairly catastrophic. We were building evacuation plans for Aspen Park and Ullman Park, which really hits home. We've never done that before. I think it was 36 hours is when it was going to impact those areas. It was the highest priority fire in the region. We had most of the aircraft in the region. I think we spent $2.8 million. Is that final number somewhere around there? On aircraft in like 3 days. And between that and the hard work from all of our people is what hung it up. We had a hot check crew from California, crews from Minnesota. Where's that? Missouri? I don't even know. We had deals from all over the country here. That fire showed the value of us going out on fires. Our people have seen fires like that before, luckily in other people's districts. So the fact that our people have the training, that's where the value shows. I'll argue it all day long. You know, our guys did a great job. You know, Inner Canyon, everybody did great. So that was a quarry fire. The irony of that is that kind of took precedence over the strategic plan rollout. We were supposed to do that at the last board meeting. We had a presentation, all of this, but we ended up working on the quarry fire through that. We ended up rolling out the strategic plan, so I apologize to you guys. It went out, everybody got to see it at once, but we also didn't want to sit on it for another month. We'll have a brief presentation on it tonight, but that was what we completed that in July. We put together the storyboard, the story map, the website, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you to Captain Yellen and Urban. They owned it. They did a tremendous job sealing the deal with this thing. And again, we were hoping to have a big presentation with it, and then instead we had a fire. But we're going to go over the nuts and bolts of it and in old business, as well as the consultant who did a great job. He's on the Zoom, and so he's going to talk about the process. Operations, volunteers had 195 hours of staffing. We averaged 5 members per call. 5 members per call is up. That's because we had nearly, I think we had 12 volunteers that were actually out on quarry fire, maybe 13. 17% of our calls overlapped. 18 calls, that's going to go up because we're still finishing the quarry fire reporting. Quarry fire went on for 7 days, and so we were tapped for most of those days. That number will increase. Average response times, normal, 9/11. Incidents, nothing out of the ordinary, 107. The fires were the biggest thing. Mutual aid provided to Elk Creek. We called for mutual aid 13 times, and again, the quarry fire is not in here, so that's going to go up significantly. We provided mutual aid 8 times. Transports, about normal, 36 transports. Training, we logged 117 hours of training for the month. Fire prevention, 9 inspections, 16 letters and referrals. The Vision 2020 data analysis class hosted locally, which is the first big step for the community risk assessment, which we're going to go through in our strategic plan. Fire Marshal Rush is heading that up. The elevation celebration went off during July, and it was fantastic. I mean, I think, right, it worked out pretty well. What we did from our end, I mean, it's always a mess for you, but from our end, it worked out great. You're always stressed out. Yeah, but one of the things that we did, we've talked about it several times. This is the first year we actually put together a true MCI plan. It is a lot of people in a small area, and if we do have a catastrophic event, we're going to have to manage that somehow. So we took this as a catalyst to actually kind of build out this plan and what this would look like all the way down to where an ICP would go, how you move things in and out, moving ambulances in and out if we had any sort of large-scale event, which from a training exercise, it was very good for us. Luckily, hopefully we'll continue this. We'll never use it, but it was a very good training exercise, and we'll be able to utilize that for several other events. Worked with Jeffco P&Z on meetings to help move the transportation design and construction manual forward. And investigations, the Stivey Road structure fire, that's the one at the base of Conifer Mountain. That went to DFPC, and the cause is undetermined. And the last bit is facilities. Up at Station 3, we've been doing some work up there because it was looking pretty bad. The last thing we got, we have an AED up there now in a heated box. That is, it's a complicated area, even though it sits right below a cell tower, there's no cell service there. So we also have an emergency call box. Yeah, it's funny, you sit below the cell tower and it doesn't work very well at all. But through the HOA and a lot of the residents up there, we got the call box a few years ago, and then this year we got the AED up there, which is kind of a big deal. It is a long drive up the top of Conifer Mountain, so between that and Pulse Point, it might make a difference someday.
So the Stivey fire was actually in Kings Valley,
Correct.
not at the bottom of Conifer
Okay,
Mountain. It's okay.
thank you.
I mean, I don't want to say that we're doing what we should do in Kings Valley, some of us are, some of us aren't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quick, a couple of comments. Last month, one of the community members asked for more clarity on who we are helping
Do we,
during our mutual aid calls and who is helping us. Is that something
we
that
can,
you're
yeah,
able to provide us?
we can do that. I actually put that together and then
Yeah,
we got busy. We can actually do that. I can redact call numbers probably and addresses, because again, I don't want that out in the public sphere.
I think
But
just maybe like
agencies, so Platte Canyon.
agency totals, like
Okay.
Platte Canyon 3 times,
Yep.
Inner Canyon 6, North Fork 2.
And we used to
Just
do,
those kinds of.
we used to do that.
Really,
when,
Yeah.
but then nobody cared about it up until everybody wanted to prove it wrong, so now everybody cares about it again. So I'll be more than happy. We can build that out. We can put each agency and how many times they provided it, and then each
That would be-
agency and who we provided it to. Does that work?
Yeah.
Does
that
it
would
need to be
great.
dates or anything, or just numbers?
No, I think just numbers.
Yeah. Can do.
Yeah, I know you and I had talked about it, like, right after the meeting.
Yeah,
But
then I
you
got
had, like,
Yeah,
you had things.
yeah.
And then a second piece, oh, look, 2 of them are here. I personally would like to thank the fire department, Mr. Moya and Mr. Evers, and,
Laura's there too.
yeah, Hartley and Greg. I had a great chat with Greg in the ambulance. My daughter had a weird little medical episode almost a week ago, and the crew was out there quickly and very patient with her and very calm. And my firefighter husband was not as calm because it was his daughter who was having the episode. And then they transported us down to Swedish, very nauseamly slow, but I appreciate it. It's like, you could go faster, but Greg was like, really, lady, calm down. But thank you very much, you made me feel better. Lila doesn't remember most of that, but hey, she had a good time. It was a fun Friday night, but thank you very much for your kindness and grace.
Glad you do that. And I think in light of that, your efforts for the Devaney family and all of our efforts at the Quarry Fire. They should not go without recognition. Chief Ware mentioned to me that our firefighters on the Quarry Fire were recognized nationally by other entities, and they were put in a position where other high echelon teams were not, because of the capabilities of our wildland team. And we are lucky as a community, not only to have the fine men and women that work for this department and what they do every day, helping our community in emergency medical calls, but in a potentially even greater catastrophic event than we have. And it would be idiotic for me to say that you all don't deserve every accolade that you should be provided, and you guys are absolutely outstanding. So thank you on behalf of every board member here. Thank you for saving our community. We appreciate it.
One more sidebar to that, if I may. You know, we designed these maps, these planning units. This is the first time we've been able to implement it. That's Captain Yellen back there. We were actually able to utilize the planning units for a lot of the evacuation planning. He was in the background. He whipped up a QR code. People were driving around at briefing. They just got a QR code. They got a map of their planning unit, of their work area. And a lot of people were just like, holy crap, you guys did this? You know, you've only been here in like 26 hours. I don't even know how long it was. Everybody was super impressed. The county, as well as all the out of district resources. So I think it was our proof of concept of a lot of our mapping that we've been doing for the last couple of years that we worked out. I think even we got more buy-in at the county than I think we've ever had before, which is kind of exciting.
Well, I would rather not have to do that at all, but hey.
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Any other questions for Chief Ware? All right, that leads us into both business and the strategic plan.
All right. So last month we had a whole dog and pony show for you guys. And unfortunately, obviously, we got a little busy. We do have Peter Dunbar on Zoom. He was a consultant that helped us. He was a tremendous asset. I've been dealing with a lot of consultants over the years, from AP Triton to several other consultants with these projects. And one of the big problems we found is people's lack of understanding of what the mountains were like. Well, AP Triton did a great job for us, and I was super happy with their product. You know, their product wasn't great because they couldn't appreciate what a small town in the mountains is like. And I get that. We were kind of shopping for the strategic plan, and then Peter ended up kind of popping in, and he kind of showed up on our radar, and he actually lives in our district part-time. He splits his time between here and California. He had an impressive resume, and we met, and we ended up going with him because he has an appreciation for what we do up here. And that's critically important for doing these projects. Again, the AP Triton report was good, but usually their clients are larger, you know, South Metros, North Metros, and their consultants really don't understand what it's like here. You know, we're understaffed, we don't have a lot of infrastructure. When, you know, the consultant just says, well, we just have to raise your pay to be competitive. That's cool, but we have limitations that a lot of places don't. So Pete kind of came in and did a tremendous job, and he's here. He's going to talk about the process. The process was really important. I've never done anything quite like this, and he did a great job. I thought the process was excellent. I got a lot of good feedback on it, and it incorporated a lot of different facets of the community as well as the fire department. So with that, I'll probably turn it over to you, Pete.
Thank you, Chief. I hope we all can hear me.
Yep.
I also want to thank a partner of mine, John Whiting, who was a retired battalion chief from California, who assisted me on this project because of his expertise in fire services. He started off as an EMT, worked his way up to the battalion chief, was involved in a consolidation with his agency. So he sat in with me in a number of these discussions. My background is in law enforcement, 30-some years in California law enforcement, 6 as a police chief. I oversaw police training here in Colorado for a couple of years under the Attorney General, and I do consulting and teaching on the side now. Unfortunately, splitting my time between California and Colorado, which I miss dearly, but the grandkids have taken over my life for a little bit. Anyway, the process that we use is the typical strategic planning process, and that is to be collaborative. And we wanted to talk to both internal folks and the community. So we did an internal survey to start with, and that was in February and March of this year. And we had 45 respondents, asking them the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and what they felt the top 3 issues were that the department should work on over the next 3 to 5 years. After that, we did a community survey, which was completed by 194 respondents. We asked similar questions: SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We actually had them rank some issues. We had them rank their satisfaction with the department, and then ask what they felt that the department needed to do to get the issues mitigated. Then we had a community meeting. The community meeting was on April 30th, and we had 17 people attend. And I think most of those people had not completed the community survey. And we basically went through the whole SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, issues discussions, issue prioritization, and came up with a list of, I think it was 7, perhaps 8 issues in order that the community folks came up with. So we took that information, and the next thing we had was some internal focus groups to really dial in on some of the details that people felt they needed. So we talked to EMS folks, we talked to firefighters, talked to volunteers, we talked to wildland, and we talked to admin. Get different perspectives of what really needed to be worked on by the district over the next 5 years. That information was sent out to a group of people that we had a workshop with on June 20th, and we spent all day talking about mission statement, vision statement. Actually, we created a vision statement. They created it. I just facilitated it. And then that brings up a wonderful point. I think the chief's already hit on it. I think most of them have seen it. What a great organization of people you have. Both the career folks and the volunteers were full in with all of this stuff, wanting to talk about, very proud they are of the organization, but also what the needs are and where they can go from now until the next 5 years. So the process looked at writing a vision statement. We did a little tweaking in the value statements, but the focus was on the issues. And I won't repeat all the issues that we went over unless you have questions, but the issue conversation was, okay, what's the issue? Let's dial it down and make it as specific as possible. So if an issue is staffing, what is it about staffing that we need to deal with? Et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with a number of strategies for each issue, and then what we expected to be the outcomes if these strategies were all completed. And that's basically what came up with the report. What is also in that report are service gaps and challenges and weaknesses. And so I've been asked, okay, well, how people do these SWOT analysis and they have these weaknesses. What are you going to do with those? Where do you put those? And basically, each of the issues that were identified, those weaknesses fit into those issues. So working on those issues works on those weaknesses. I would say at least 80% of those weaknesses that came up from all the different internal community folks, focus groups, all that stuff is in that component that's in the strategic plan. And I have to compliment the folks that put together the storyboard because it's absolutely amazing. The photographs, the explanations. I've never seen something like that to that degree. I think it makes it really great for the community to see what's going on with the organization, because I think that's one of the things that came up during this process was the lack of knowledge by the community about what goes on with Elk Creek Fire and the relationships with North Fork and Inter Canyon. And I think that's been coming out loud and clear. Unfortunately, on a fire to make that louder and clearer, but I think that is where things are going and moving forward. So that is basically in a nutshell. I'm happy to take any questions and stand by if you have any as well.
Chief, you want to clarify anything about how the process worked for you?
No, I mean, it was, he was great to work with. I haven't been a part of the strategic plan. We've never had one here quite like this. We've done small internal documents, but nothing like this. I thought it was great. It was very collaborative. Every opportunity was given for every individual. I stayed out of the process up until really the end, because I didn't feel that, you know, I should sit in a lot of those, which is, you know, it's a challenge because, you know, there are going to be things where, you know, strategic plans are tough. There are things that come out where you realize that maybe you should do better, but really I thought it was excellent.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
generally after you do a strategic plan, you have strengths and weaknesses, which are evaluated as part of that, and I read through it. So generally after that, you have to come up with an operational plan to address those weaknesses. So where are we in that, and who's working on that?
We are working on that now. As I start going through this, we're gonna touch on that.
Okay,
So now that's kind of the process, and I was going to get more into the detail of our specific project here. I'm not going to go through it page by page. Again, we had a very long presentation, but everybody's been able to see it. So the big thing I want to talk about are the critical issues and the service gaps. First thing is the mission statement. I remember when that was created. It's been around for a number of years. And I think it still holds true, you know, and this is part of some of those focus groups is to see if it still made sense and still worked. And we've never had a vision statement, and that was created in a workshop with our members. I thought that was very valuable because it does make sense. Again, I didn't see it up until they completed it, and I agree with it. I think it's an excellent path to move forward. The goal, strategy, and expected outcome. So to your point, we identified these issues, and now what we're doing is we are on the first step of the strategies of most of these. So the first one is staffing. Staffing is always a problem for us. You know, I don't beat NFPA 1710 and 1720 into the ground. We are woefully inadequate when it comes to staffing. As well as, you know, recruiting and retaining. You know, the volunteer fire service is, people can argue it all day long, but it is no longer what it once was. You can Google it pretty much every day. There's another fire department that is not getting volunteers. And we are in the same boat. We struggle to recruit and retain volunteers. And I think most of it is, as well as career staff. Our career staff now, we have some longevity in our career staff. We have members that have been here almost 10 years. I think that is a lot to do with Chief McLaughlin and the path that he started, the foundation he started to build. We had a very transient career staff before that. But to do that, we need to help retain those people. So the strategies, the first thing we're going to do is a workload analysis. We're small enough that we can do that internally. Castle Rock just did a very good one. There are a lot of formulas out there based on call volume, call acuity, PTO, which is a big thing. If people actually use their PTO, how many staff you have to allow people to take PTO so you can maintain your staffing. Workload, overtime, et cetera, et cetera. So with our groups that we have, we've got our operations group, training group, each group that we identified in here, each one of them is working on this workload analysis. That's going to be the first step, to figure out where we're at. We kind of joke in a way, we kind of know where it's going to go, but at least it'll give us a pathway and a goal moving forward of what we need to do. And it'll actually be able to quantify it through a formula, if you will, instead of just saying we need more. So that's kind of the first step on the staffing. Next step is infrastructure. Our infrastructure is antiquated at best. Let's see, the station you're in now, this part was built in 1993. The other half was commissioned in 1963. This was remodeled. This was built in 93, I believe. That's when this was built. And then the only other remodel that has been upstairs in the living quarter was in 2015. That was mostly to abate all the asbestos that had been in there for years and years. And then to basically repair a lot of the bad remodels that we've done internally ourselves. And that's our main station. And then the rest of our stations go downhill from there. Most of them are steel buildings. Our Wildlife Work Center is not great. We talked about it in the story map. It was built a number of years ago. We have 14 people working out of basically a 2-bay steel building. We have porta potty there because it only has one bathroom. And it's a struggle. So infrastructure is, that was all the way across the board. Almost everybody talked about our infrastructure and how we need to do something with our infrastructure. And so what we're doing is we're going to create an end user committee to identify and evaluate the current infrastructure resources. Once we evaluate everything and actually quantify it, write it down, then we're going to start looking at access, the current conditions and processes for the acquisition and maintenance of new infrastructure, what we can do. Is it purchasing existing land and building? Is it remodeling stations? What we're going to do with that. And that's kind of where we're at with that. The apparatus isn't terrible. We already have an apparatus replacement plan, and we're on track with that. We're in a pretty good spot with the new engines that we should be placing an order for a week after next. That's going to put us in a place where most of our apparatus is, well, right at 21 years old for one of our engines, but everything else is well within the NFPA 15-year recommended life. With the apparatus replacement plan moving on, we should be able to keep up with that, so the apparatus will be in a good spot. Community risk. Create and implement a community risk reduction plan that normalizes risk reduction practices in the community. What we're going to do with that is, right now, Fire Marshal Rush is already working on our community risk reduction plan. Fire Marshal Parker did one a number of years ago when he first came here, 6 years ago. We are updating that, and Fire Marshal Rush is already working on that. Once we have that developed, then we're going to prioritize risks and then figure out the target hazards and then update our CWPP. And most of that is just going to be a lot of planning. Once we get a lot of that planning, getting that out to the public, that's what we're going to be working on with the community risk. And staffing. So this one is not the response staffing, the actual bodies on call. This is the wellness. Call it what you want, but if we could have 100 volunteers and 50 career firefighters, but if they're not healthy and happy with their jobs, they're going to be worthless. If we don't take care of our people, we can have the best staff or the best equipment in the world, but if we don't have good people to put on it, it's not going to work. So this is addressing that. It's going to be looking at a holistic wellness plan that involves not only PT, we're very big on PT, physical training, exercise, we have a nice gym, we hit that pretty hard, but also the rest of it. In the last few years, we've really been able to push people. We have a lot of PTO, and for years nobody ever took PTO. We push people to take PTO, take time, which is different than the fire service of years ago. You have to take care of your people. So that's what this is going to be. We're going to identify the gaps in the health and wellness. One of the first things that's been talked about, we're going to develop a health and wellness committee that's going to have this, is bringing back physical trainers. We used to have physical trainers a number of years ago, something Chief McLaughlin implemented. And then it got to be a challenge. She moved on. We had some substitutes. It just didn't work out quite as well, and we kind of moved on from that. But we're going to get back to that, as well as some mental health coaching and things along that line. So that's going to be TBD. Again, most of these are going to they're going to take years for us to work on. So the first step is building these committees that are going to come up with how we're going to start to implement this. Next one, internal communication. We ebb and flow on this, and most of it is just due to staffing and workload. That's one of the things that the workload analysis has come out. Our newsletter. The newsletter that we sent out to the community, which was great, except I think some of you saw it. It ran about $8,000 in mailing, other than the fact, it would take us literally a day just to rubber band it and just package it and then drive it to the post office. So we're trying to come up with some different ways for communication, internal and external. We're going to try and develop some other systems that we can do to increase our communication internally and externally. Our members deserve to know what's going on. And the external communication is the residents. It's tough up here. We talk about it a lot. Without a newspaper that anybody really reads a whole lot, it covers a lot of that side, doesn't cover us a lot. We just don't have a good avenue. I feel our social media is great. We get a lot of engagement on social media, but we need to do better. So we are looking at some email programs and some other things. One of the end goals I would like to see is more of an email newsletter that we can send out once a quarter that people can sign up for. And we can get rid of the paper mail, because again, $8,000 is a lot. But people can sign up for a newsletter, and then every quarter we'll have a digital newsletter that we can send out talking about what we do and how we're doing our business. That's one of the first steps. There are going to be a number of other things, but that's the external communication part of that. So those are the goals that were identified. Again, they were identified by members of the community and fire department. So I see a lot of value in this. The work that was put in by the fire department, by Pete, as well as community members was tremendous. And I think this document is hopefully going to be a guiding document for us for the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Dunbar, did you have anything further you would like to add?
No, I think the chief hit all the points. I think it was very collaborative with the community. I think it's a great plan moving forward. And I think the way that the department is set up, notifying the public with the updates in the storyboard, I've never seen anything as good as that. So I think I congratulate everybody for that effort and know that it's going to keep moving and keep people updated.
Well, thank you for your help with that, and Chief, thank you, and all of the Oak Creek personnel for working together to get that completed. It's a good read. If anybody hasn't seen it already, please jump into it. It's available on our website, and we appreciate what you've done.
And a lot of it, again, was Captain Yellen and PIO Urban. They're responsible for the storyboard. They did a tremendous job. They were instrumental in this.
Thank you both. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Bethany. Bethany, we gotta work on training the chief up for the video though, okay?
You're not wrong.
AI can do wonders these days.
You're not wrong.
And I'm only teasing because I appreciate what you've done, and I know that's a lot. That's a lot to stand there and to.
The irony is that's as good as it gets. There was a lot of takes. Like that was 110%. That was it.
Thank you. Again, appreciate you all. Any other questions related to the strategic plan? Hearing none, that takes us to new business. Is there any new business from my fellow board members? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by
Sorry.
Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
You were gonna ask.
Yeah, I was.
Wait a second.
A second by Director Woods. All in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
Show the meeting adjourned at 7:02. Thank you, Ms. Baker. I appreciate that. Thank you all for attending.